What's going on, YouTubers? Tio here, Simplistic Fishing, back at you tonight to finish up the Lake Tyler stuff. Actually, not going to finish it up. We got one more video to do. But tonight, we are going to focus on the offshore hot spots. So hopefully you had a chance to go out and check out the Tyler West and Tyler East videos that we did for the Google Earth waypoints. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go look at it from a contour perspective, see what kind of things we can find offshore, humps, points, things like that. It'll be good fish attracting sites for you guys to go to. Hopefully high percentage areas for you guys to get into. So I'm not going to delay any longer. Let's go ahead and jump in and let's talk about Tyler West from an offshore perspective. Here we go. So as I stated in the introduction, we went through Lake Tyler on the Google Earth waypoints. We talked about Lake Tyler West. We also talked about Lake Tyler East. And so tonight it's time to jump into the offshore stuff and really go into that. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start over here on Tyler West first and see what we can get done on Tyler West. If we can get it all done tonight, we'll do Tyler West and Tyler East. But if not, we may have two different videos here. Again, one for Tyler West and one for Tyler East. So let's just start down here at the dam. As far as offshore hotspots, really the first place that I really liked was right out here. If you look down here, pretty much everything's the same, but you have a little underwater point that comes out here. You got a nice little top around 7 foot, and then it has a little bit of a taper off to the edge of it. This can be a great feeding table for them to get up on top of. There could be a hard spot up on top of there as well that they may relate to. It's always a good spot to definitely take a look around and see what you can find in that area. So then let's keep on going, and again, this lake's a little bit different. It's actually not a little bit different. It's a lot like a lot of the lakes in East Texas where you got these bank lines that are just really shallow and they just slowly taper off. So from an offshore standpoint, we're looking at humps and points and things like that, and we don't really get as many of those like 45-degree angle bank line drops and stuff like that that you're used to maybe if you lived up in the Ozarks or something like that. But we still have a lot of good structure to fish around. Here's one thing, looking at this point, if you look at how this point sets up, obviously someone's put a marker out here for Navionics to let us know to fish there, but also right over here, right off the edge, you can see it kind of comes out a little bit more, makes a little bit more defined point. Definitely in that area is a spot that I would look at for sure to see if you can find anything there. You may also find some debris or things like that right around in this area, and I have no idea. I can't see it on Google Earth or anything like that, but if you look where those bends are, like right in here, where that turn starts to happen, you could have some debris buildup and stuff like that a little bit further out in the depths there. So definitely go out there and scan around, see if you can find anything around that creek channel. So we're going to keep going up here, up the west side, kind of show you where I'm at. I'm right here at the canal that really connects the two of them. These are always going to be, anytime you get in these little pinch areas like this, these are always going to be great areas to fish around. It's a great spot for them to really corral the bait and really get them into a really good position to be able to attack them. So both of these areas right here where you have this island, and then if you look down from the island, you've got a nice little point that comes off the side of it, some real sharp breaks. The other side's got some sharp breaks too. You've got that little saddle that's in between there that has some really good contours. So you've really got a lot of good stuff going on just right in this area, just those two little points right there. And then you may also want to come down here and get right around the edges of this, just around the edges of that canal, and see if you can find anything in that area as well. So let's go ahead and pull back up and let's look at the top of that island. So the back of the island had the bigger drop. The top of the island has more of the tapering point where it comes out more like a flat tabletop where they can get up there and feed, and then it slowly starts to break off. So a little bit different things on both sides of the island, but I'd say pretty much if I was going to fish that, I would start down here where the sharper breaks are, where you have the saddle. I think it's more of a high percentage area, but don't count this out, especially like fall time. That could be a perfect feeding table for them to jump up on and really start feeding on shad and things like that. So just a couple areas there to take a look at as we move a little bit further up. You've got this little area that they have put as a fishing spot. I'd imagine it's hydrilla or pads or something like that, so definitely take a look there. You've got a nice little point here. This may be nothing, or it could be something really good. It's hard to tell, but from a contour perspective and structure perspective, this one looks pretty decent. You've got a nice flat top there with some pretty pretty good tapering off the side of it, so it kind of sets up well. It's more a little bit main lake. It's fairly close to the creek channel, so possibly, and it is different than pretty much everything in that area. Everything else is just pretty well flat. So we move on up, just kind of looking down this bank line to see if we see anything in there that really pops out at us from offshore. And the next thing, again, is going to be another point. So if we look in here, and we dig in a little bit closer, you'll notice this comes out and makes a pretty good little point out here, about 11 foot, 8 to 9 foot of water, sorry. And then it kind of tapers off to 11 and then goes off pretty sharply after that. So right here off the edge of this point would be good. You might want to check out that dock too. That dock sets up pretty good related to that point. Then let's keep going. You're going to be surprised. Next thing that I found was another underwater point. This one's a little bit different. You've got this point that comes out here at 7 feet, and then it starts to taper off, right? So it gets down here to around 18 feet, and then that's when you have your flat top right there at 18 feet. So definitely go around there, scan around that area. Again, that creek channel is fairly close right here, so you could have some debris build up. All kinds of stuff could be right in here fairly close to this point. The point's also fairly close to the creek channel, so that, again, makes it a more of a higher percentage area. So definitely go look in there. I think you'll have some success there. As we move a little bit further back, it's starting to get pretty shallow back in here. So there was one thing right in here. Someone just put bass, like their eighth stop. I'm looking at this, thinking, why would this be a key spot for bass? It could be that creek channel comes in there. It could just be that they're relating to that point. All kinds of good stuff. Now, also, while I'm just sitting here looking at this, creek channel comes pretty close to the edge of that dock. So that edge of that dock right in there could be really good, and that dock right there could be really good as well. All depending on where that creek channel is. But again, if you missed the Google Earth waypoints video, I actually marked those creek channels if I was able to see them. So you might want to, after watching this video, just go back and check that out and see if those creek channels come up and hit really close to those docks. If they do, those docks are going to be your primo docks you want to be fishing. All right, so I'm going to keep on going on. As we move up here, here's a dock, and here's a really good example of what I was talking about. So one, this dock is fairly close to a point. But two, if you look at it, it has some pretty good depth. It's probably 7 to 9 feet. Let's see what it says here. 6 feet. So it's 6 feet off the edge of it. So you think that's not that deep, but for this lake, that's pretty deep. When the deepest water around is 20 feet, you're almost halfway there, or you're not really halfway there, say 80% there. But anyways, if you look at it, you've got good depth there. And if you look really closely, you see that seabed area, that little red area that's kind of highlighted with yellow. That's going to be your creek channel. So that creek channel is very close to that dock and is close to a point. So all those things added together make that dock really a high percentage dock to be able to fish around. As we move up here, the bank line stays pretty shallow. There wasn't a lot there, but as you move further out, there is a submerged bridge out here. And I haven't got a chance to do a video for you guys yet. I've been wanting to do it forever, where we go out and do A-rigs, where we're fishing A-rigs and spoons and things like that around these bridges, because it doesn't seem to happen, a lot. It's more of a summertime, kind of going into the fall time thing. But man, when we find it, we catch really, really big fish on these submerged bridges. This one sets up really good because there's not a lot of stuff around it. It's kind of very isolated out there. The depth is really good. It's only 17, 18 feet out there. All of it sets up really good. If there really is a submerged bridge there, I would definitely go and fish that thing for sure. All right, so I'm going to keep going up, stop talking about submerged bridge. But another thing you hear me talk about a lot on our lake breakdowns as far as high percentage areas is looking at creek channel bends and looking at creek channel swings. And when I talk about the swings, typically what I'm saying is, does it swing up against the land, or does it swing up against a point and touch it, or does it swing up against a dock, I guess you could even say. So right here, you've got a channel swing. You'll see it right there where the marker is, where it comes really, really close to that bank line. And that is going to be a primo spot for you to want to be fishing around. Back off a little bit, fish a little bit away from that creek channel, so you're fishing up here and then you're dropping it down into the creek channel. You're going to have some pretty good success. Obviously, you want to set up here. This is going to be, a lot of this is going to depend on the wind, as far as your boat positioning. So really pay attention to the wind when you're fishing in this area, and make sure that you point your boat facing into the wind. You want to be casting into the wind and then bringing it back with the wind. You're going to have more success doing that as well. All right, so we talk about that point. Going up here, just some really shallow stuff, lily pads and things like that. Now, as we come back down the west side, though, here's that submerged bridge that we talked about again. But if we look at that, we just follow that roadbed over, there's a fairly decent little point that's coming off of here, and you've got that roadbed there. And you know me, and you know that I love to fish around rock, and I think pretty much every other bass fisherman, likes it as well. So anytime you can find that rock, especially on these Texas lakes where it's pretty much just nothing but mud, they love that stuff and they will relate to it. So don't just fish around the submerged bridge. Follow the roadbed back, and as long as that roadbed still exists, there could be other things along that roadbed that they're really going to relate to. So make sure you spend a lot of time focusing basically from that submerged bridge in and just see if you can find anything kind of on that parallel axis, right there, just parallel to that road. I think you might be surprised what you might find there. All right, so coming on down here, I didn't mark this area. I did mark this little point right here because I do like the way that this point sets up. But I also like how, I didn't notice this last time, but it says there's some flooded timber in here and some pilings and things like that. So fish that point, and then I'd be careful because there's no telling what kind of flooded timber could be in there. Maybe just troll over there and see what you can find. If you can find some really good flooded timber, and if it makes a really defined line, those can be some really critical areas to find in these lakes, and areas that you can really pile up some fish on. So just take a look at it. It might be nothing, but it could be some really good stuff. If there's pilings out there and things like that, that means they could be out in a perfect row. And again, in that case, if you can find stuff that has more of a defined line, you're going to find that it's a lot easier to fish it, and it just seems that the fish seem to like it as well. It's just like the deer following the fence lines and things like that. Fish do the same exact thing. All right, so let's keep moving on down here, and just going down, from offshore standpoint, didn't see too much up there. Obviously, it's pretty shallow up there, but as we get a little bit further down, this is the boulders. So coming down from the boulders, if I get right in here, you'll notice this has got a really shallow spot right in here. You've probably got some hydrilla or some lily pads or something, but there's definitely a high spot right here. So looking off the edges of these high spots sometimes can be really productive areas. Now this one doesn't look that great, but it is different. It does have some pretty good contours, so it's definitely worth checking out. As we move further down here, I was excited. I was hoping there would be a bridge over here, but no bridge, but we definitely have a roadbed here. So following that roadbed down would be worth checking out. Definitely scan around that roadbed. But the next spot that I found for you guys would be right here. There's a little hump out here, and it's really not too obvious because I think most people are going to just kind of look over that. But if you look really closely, you can tell it comes up, to say 13 feet right here. It's 15 feet out here. It goes down 24 feet out here. So you've got a nice little hump here. And that hump, if you go to between the saddle, between that little hump right there and this one, that's where that roadbed is. So if I'm fishing in this area, I'm going to check out this hump, see if there's anything related to that hump, or that could, again, be a hard spot that's down there or something like that. If there's not anything there, I might pull off just a little bit and see if there's anything relating to the corners where these two roadbeds meet, or that same roadbed makes a really hard turn there. All right, so let's keep moving down. Next spot that I found would be way out here. You've got these nice, big points, humps, underwater islands, whatever you want to call them. This one actually looks kind of like an underwater hump. You got a pretty good hump out here. Top of it's in 17 feet, and then it's surrounded by, say, 30 foot of water on most of the sides. So this end here looks really, really good. I would definitely fish around this, especially off the edges of the hump. And then, of course, throwing out on top of the hump for sure. Again, that's going to be a wind thing. So position your boat right in the wind, and you'll find yourself being able to have more success that way. Now, moving down here again, another one of those underwater points that comes out, but then it's got a little higher spot on top of it, almost like another hump on top of it. 13 foot on top, really close to a couple creek channels here on a nice big kind of flat point. So right in here would definitely be worth scanning around and looking to see if you can find anything there. If you don't find anything there, right in here would be my next spot that I would definitely look. Look right where that creek channel swings up against that point, right where that bend is, and that could be a really good spot. You could also find some debris or brush piles or all kinds of stuff right out in here. So scan right in here and see if you can find anything in there. All right, so it looks like they have a pumping station here. Looks like you can get around it. Hopefully you can. If you can, once you get back here, which I believe you can, you've got a submerged bridge back here again. Real good depth. You know, this one's a little bit deeper, so 24 feet. So this is probably more like a wintertime thing. But go back here and check these out. These bridges can be dynamite. Do not overlook the bridges at all. So I'm going to go back in here a little bit further into these two little arms that are back in here. The next thing would obviously be this point. This point comes out pretty shallow, 3 to 4 feet, but it looks like it has some vegetation on it. So you could have, again, some really good lines on that vegetation that you could fish, things like that, that can make that a really interesting spot. And of course, it's a point. So if you're a bass fisherman, you know that if you fish enough points, you're eventually going to run across some fish. So you definitely want to go fish that point for sure. And then moving up here, just a couple more spots. I know we're getting a little bit shallow here, but we do have a spot that's right here off the edge of this point. If you look at it really closely, I believe they said there was some rock right here. So definitely go check that out. If that'd be some isolated rock, maybe an isolated rock pile, something like that. I don't believe I was able to pick that up with Google Earth. So we're kind of depending on the Navionics champs that are out there that put that out there for us. But go look and see if you have a rock pile there. If you do, that's going to be good. Again, here's another submerged bridge, money, and then if you follow that roadbed over, right in that area, it could be really good as well. So this area right in here where you have a hump and you have a bridge and you have roadbeds, I mean, all of it looks good, and the depth all looks really good too. You know, 16 feet, I think, is the deepest it gets in there, 17 feet. So that just looks really good. Definitely go back there and check that out. Let's go back down to this other arm and just point out a couple more spots in here. One, obviously, is the point. You're like, God, you're wearing me out with the points. But these points are great. You know, make sure you're checking them out. Make sure you're fishing them. They're really key transition areas for the fish when they're migrating from pre-spawn to spawn and post-spawn and back out in the winter and back in the fall, all that good stuff. You definitely want to check these out. It's a timing thing. But once you figure that timing out and you pattern it over a couple of years, you will really be able to figure out where those stopping areas are, those fish on your local lake. So definitely check that out. Now, moving down here, we're going to find another bridge. So if these bridges are here, fish them, guys. Do not overlook them. Definitely fish them. Those can be great spots. We got another good point that's over here. You're asking me why that point? Well, that point because you've got a creek channel really, really close to it. It almost swings right up against it or gets really close to it. So right in that area, right where that creek channel is, that creek channel brings bait, brings all kinds of good stuff. And being that it's on a point plus a creek channel, those are two good key things that we're looking for. So definitely an area that we would want to go look at. So now moving back in there, I didn't see too much from an offshore standpoint. Let's go down here. We're down on the south side of Langley Island now. Again, some underwater bridges or culverts or something that's there. Now, I'll warn you that sometimes Navionics says these things are here, and then I go out there to the lake and I scan around and I can't find diddly squat. So sometimes you have to be careful on the submerged culverts, but pretty much every time they've told me there was a bridge there, there's been a bridge there. So those bridges I think are going to be good. This one's going to be a little bit more of a guess, but if there is a submerged culvert down there, you've got a pretty little bit narrower area than some of those other places. Plus you've got, you know, the rock and the debris from those culverts. You definitely want to go and check those out and see if you can find anything there. Now, as far as this dock, I have no idea why that marker ended up there, but it really should be more in here. So check out this area right in here and just see if you see anything relating over there to the edge of that point, because you never know, there might be something really good out there for you to check out. So now I'm going to come back here and we're going to get a little bit further down. Didn't see too much in this area right in here as far as, you know, really anything. Oops, hit my mouse instead of my finger there. Didn't see too much in here in the, you know, in the area of this little cove from an offshore standpoint. Nothing really stood out to me until I got a little bit further down here and got off the edge of this main point. This main point, you've got a little saddle that's in here, right? 12 foot, 9 foot, 12 foot, back to 9 foot. You got a big hump right here on the edge of this thing, on the edge of this point. Plus, if you look really closely, if you look at those little dotted lines right there, you've also got a creek bed that's down there too. So point, hump, saddle, creek bed, that's 4 different things right there that are just in that one area. So definitely go check that out, see what is going on in there. That's also probably going to be some kind of a harder spot off the edge of that point that you might want to look at. Then as we move all the way back in here, we got a couple more submerged culverts that they're saying here. These don't say that they're bridges, they say that they're culverts. So check them out. Hopefully they're there. If they are, they're definitely worth fishing. We're scanning around, see if we can find any activity there. And then we're going to pull back out here, and I believe we're going to come right back down to the dam where we started. So I think it's going to be too much to cover Tyler East for this video as well. So let's go ahead and end there, and that'll be the recap for Tyler West. Now remember, you can always get all of these waypoints, plus all the stuff we found on Google Earth. You can get all of those together onto an SD card that you can just import right into your graph. Just go out, check us out, simplisticfishing.com, and get your card or your digital files today. Guys, I hope this is helping you guys. Hopefully it's helping you break down your local lakes, or at least helping you make your own waypoints and decisions when you're out there. I've heard from a lot of you guys on the successes that it's bringing you and how it's really helping you understand where you're fishing. So that's super cool. And I just wish everybody happy fishing and tight lines. Take it easy, everyone.